Hello.
Hello,
Hello,
how
good
are
evening,
you?
everyone. I'm fine, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can.
Oh, brilliant.
How are you?
I'm here.
looking lovely, looking gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. I'm
But that's normal for her anyway. So
oh, thank you.
have you got all the slides and everything?
Yeah, I've got the slides, but I can also allow the speakers to also add their own slides in. Oh, I can do. Awesome. Okay.
It is. What could you give me a quick rough rundown of the order again? Because I've forgotten.
Yeah, that's
Do you want me
absolutely.
to send it to you by text?
Yeah,
I've got it here. I'll send
or
it
you
to you
can
in
put it in the chat.
I'll put it in the chat to you.
Yeah, stick it
Give
in the
me one
chat.
second. Thank you, Jackie, for joining us. Good evening.
Yes, what a treat!
Thank
Are you the host?
you.
Victoria, you are the actual host.
Oh, bear me once. Yeah, I am the host. Let me just change my name.
Oh, fantastic! So we've got an interpreter. It'd be good to make good use of that. Are you recording the? Are you going to be recording the whole thing?
Yes,
I
I
think
am.
the recording has started.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it in a
Excellent.
second. Yeah.
And then we can share.
Ask where the recording will be shared to, because I was aware of that.
Sorry.
Just on Facebook.
You look great though, counsellor.
Thank you. Oh, I need to be letting people in.
Yeah.
Good evening, Councillor Sunny. Thank you for joining us.
Evening.
I'm excited. I wasn't about half an hour ago.
I can imagine. I hear that.
Awesome. I'm just gonna pause the recording now. If you can please put your device on mute, please. Secondly, I would ask if you would like to speak at any point, if you do not mind raising your hands. As we have BSL interpreters with us this evening, we will need to ensure that it is only one person speaking at a time. I'd like to thank all of us for coming again this evening and joining us. Thank you. You're highly welcome. The first part of our agenda this evening is to welcome Councillor Sunny Lambert. Now, Councillor Sunny Lambert is the founder, national leader, and chief executive of Black Movement. Sunny Lambert was elected Labour and Cooperative Party councillor for the marginal seat of South Bermondsey Ward for the first time in May 2014 and was re-elected with an increased majority in May 2018 local elections until 2022. Sunny Lambert is a community champion for Northeast Multi-Wards Forum, empowering communities, London Borough Southwark, and recent past national chairman of the Association of British Nigerian Councils, UK. Now, before I go further, I'll just speak about one more thing. Sunny Lambert is extremely passionate about equality, fairness, and social justice. And that is why I decided to embark on this journey and join Black Labour Movement UK. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Councillor Sunny Lambert to just talk for 5 minutes in relation to BLM UK. Please go ahead, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'll just say a big thank you to Victoria, our branch leader, and also to all your colleagues for organizing yourselves and also for inviting me to be part of today's event. It's a great privilege to join you. As you already mentioned, I'm very passionate about equality, fairness, and social justice. And that is one of the reasons why I decided to champion the formation of Black Labour Movement UK, which basically stands for Black Labour Speaking for Ourselves. And why, even you can deduce from that definition alone, Black Labour Speaking for Ourselves, or that phrase, is simply because we feel that we are marginalized, we are voiceless, especially when it comes to Black issues. And other people are most speaking on our behalf most of the time. And just imagine if people with disabilities, people with no physical impediment are speaking on their behalf with no experience what they are going through. Just imagine that. Just imagine a man speaking on behalf of a woman. Just imagine, a straight person speaking on behalf of LGBTQ plus. What do I know? That is why people who are directly affected have to have their own voice. Men, women, LGBTQ plus, Christian, Muslim, people with disabilities, because it's only them with their lived experience can speak for themselves. And that's why it was important in 2016 when we embarked on this journey. And then since then we obviously form into a corporate body to give it some degree of protection, legal protection. That's why in 2018 we decided to do that. And of course, we are also friend of the Labour Party. So because we are part of the Labour movement and believe are working together in solidarity, we are stronger. And that is why we are working together with your branch and also across the country. We have so many branches across the country now. I mean, we have in Middlesbrough, we have in Luton, and we have in your local areas where we are in Watford, Meeting Case, and so on. We have across London as well, because together we are stronger. So thank you so much for inviting me, because I don't want to bore you with too much about BLM. BLM is just part of the conversation, of course, because the issue you're actually talking about today, mental health, affect every single one of us. Just imagine what COVID-19 has done to us. Now we are now social distancing. Even I was abroad, if I only came back about 2 weeks ago. I'm still in isolation. I just imagine without modern technology, Zoom, I probably wouldn't have been able to even participate in this conversation because I have to social distance. And I believe I can't pass my virus to you guys from, from the social media. So you just imagine, I think there's enough social distance between us. Thank God technology has made this happen. But what is important is that we still need to reach out to each other. Even that isolation alone can create mental illness. Talk less of all the stress of unemployment and all the other issues that we already facing even before COVID-19. COVID-19 just made it worse. But I would just want to say well done and thank you to you and your brilliant team who are working together and your supporters. Together, we can achieve a lot by working together in solidarity. You know, there's an African proverb that says if ants are united, they can carry an elephant. If we all work together, black, white, people with disabilities, LGBTQ plus, men, women, all of us, we can achieve the qualities we so much desire. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Sonny Lambert, once again. Thank you very much. Indeed, together we can do more. And that is why we have come together this evening to really talk about mental health. Before I go on to my next speaker, I would like to invite Lillian Martins to come and speak, if she's available, just in relation about the Nigerian community. Just to talk more about the Nigerian community. Lillian Martins, are you available? If you don't mind unmuting yourself or sharing your screen. Perfect.
Hello. Good evening. This is Lillian Martins, and I happen to be the one that's admitting you people in, so I've been sort of like incommunicado, no one's seen my face, but I must say I'm quite enthralled and actually excited over what's happening this evening, that alongside with Black Labor Movement, Nigerian community, Aylesbury, we've been able to hold this pertinent event. When I say pertinent, it's pertinent because it's something that's quite in the hearts of the executives of Nigerian community, Aylesbury. So maybe without further ado, let me first and foremost introduce myself. I'm Lillian Martins, and I happen to be the president of the Nigerian community of Aylesbury Association, or you put it Association of Aylesbury. And this organization has been in existence for about 5-6 years. I only just took on the role of the presidency last year, but it is actually an organization that is passionate about not just the welfare of the Nigerian heritage, not just the welfare of the people living in Nigeria, that are from Nigeria, but we've had ourselves involved with other communities, Asian communities, Jamaican communities. We've done stuff together, and we've had lots of trainings, computer training. We've done lots of food share, which when I say food share, so much sharing food both in Milton Keynes and Aylesbury, and visiting homes, visiting the elderly, putting and dropping. I must tell you, Councillor Victoria was excellent at this at the last lockdown, dropping food at the different homes. We spent every day we went out, we spent nothing less than 3 hours outside. And it's a thing that for now we have the vice president and myself in Milton Keynes still sharing food, getting food from Tesco, Aldi, Waitrose, and the Gregs as well. You can imagine how much time this takes. But alongside with this, we've had series of events to meet the needs. For example, before the Christmas, we've had events having to teach ourselves how to bake, how to make food, and this was a well-attended event as well. But what is Nigerian community all about? Nigerian community is out here in Aylesbury and anyone else that's interested to become friends of Nigerian community, we are out to encourage, educate, empower, and look into how we can actually help the community at large. We've had computer skills, training. We've had the elderly in Milton Keynes. What we do is the elderlies coming together, and what we do they're looking for a place to talk. They're looking for a time to leave their homes and come and share. Just what we do is share and talk. So really, and then we find that as well, we've appreciated the elderly in Aylesbury. We've appreciated the women for what they have done within the community. I've got just 5 minutes. So really and truly, Nigerian community is not just for Nigerians, it's for the community at large in Aylesbury. So thank you very much. And I'm sure with I remember us having an event on bullying, and bullying, the bullying was what people gave positive feedback in regards to bullying, and the bullying is part of something that we say we have to do with mental issues, especially now that the lockdown is on, where children will be able to talk about what they went through at home and with their parents at home. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us, and Councillor Victoria and all the Nigerian community executives. I can't fail to thank you, and thank every team that I've worked with Councillor Victoria to make this a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for clapping. Please note we do have reactions on the bottom of your device or screen, so please go ahead and feel free to clap. Thank you so much, Lillian Martins. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I have the opportunity of inviting our first speaker. Her name is Genevieve Shaw. Genevieve is an entrepreneur. She's a business owner with a passion for people. She has worked in mental health and social care for over 30 years. She has studied psychology, equality, diversity, and is a qualified care manager. You see, Genevieve is the founder and owner of What's the Drama, a day service for adults with learning disabilities. Bear me 1 second while I just change over. Perfect. So, Genevieve is the founder and owner of What's the Drama, a day service for adults with learning disabilities, teaching social skills, communication, and confidence, as well as giving them the opportunity to pursue their interests in theatre and creative arts. She also enjoys working with young people and has received a Jack Petchey and London Youth Award for her work with young people in Hackney, where she volunteered for over 10 years. Please, let's use our reactions. Let's unmute ourselves as we welcome our first guest speaker. I am about to spotlight you, Jen Shaw. I can't wait to hear what you have to tell us about mental health.
Welcome, Jen. Welcome, Jen.
Hello, everybody. It's so good to see so many people here willing to have this conversation about mental health. I think we can all agree it's definitely, I think it's been a challenge over these last 18 months. It's been crazy, I think, for most people. And I think this situation has threatened so many people's mental health. And so I'm glad that we're here and that we're having a discussion about it. My job this evening is just to have a word about the difference between mental health and mental illness. It's quite an important distinction. Now I've got slides. Am I on the share screen, or I don't know if I need to share the screen. Just helps people take in the information a little bit. I mean, I'll carry on anyway once Victoria's there. She's got the kit screening. So why is it important to understand mental illness? Well, 4 to 10% of adults in the UK will suffer a mental illness sometime in their lifetime. 1 in 5 adults have considered taking their own life at some point. That means there is more than 10 people in this group right now that have at one stage considered, even for a brief moment, considered taking their life, or even just not wanting to be here. Mixed anxiety and depression accounts for approximately 1/5 of lost working days in Britain. So mental health is not just for sick people. It's not just about the people who are suffering. It is about how all our communities, the cost on our economies, and the ripple effect that it has going forward for all our communities. Okay, so mental illness. What is mental illness? Mental illness has a standard criteria used to diagnose. So to diagnose mental illness, there's standard criteria that people will go through, that doctors will go through to diagnose it. So it is clinically proven. It's a clinical diagnosis. It significantly affects, so a mental illness significantly affects how people feel, think, behave, and interact with others. It cannot be overcome with willpower. It can be caused by factors, biological factors, such as brain chemistry, genetics, trauma and abuse, or family history. All these things can affect mental illness, or can give you a mental illness, or be the reason why you have a mental illness, or somebody around you, somebody you know has a mental illness. So an example of mental illness, I'll give you a few examples because we really want to define it in this little short session. So a mental illness, and remember what I said earlier, it cannot be overcome with willpower. It can be caused by biological factors like chemistry, and it affects how people interact with the world around them. So hold that in your mind while I tell you, because sometimes we have different ideas around what these things are. So depression is a mental illness. Anxiety is a mental illness. Mood disorders, including bipolar, is a mental illness. Schizophrenia, trauma disorders like post-traumatic distress syndrome, eating disorders, body morphia, anorexia, bulimia, those kind of things, they're mental illnesses. They're not something that they can just get over with willpower. It's something that they have to do to get past it. Addictive behaviors, when I was younger, I don't know, especially in certain cultures, for example, alcoholism isn't considered, people just think it's he just likes to drink, he can stop if he wants to, but it is an illness. It's an illness that needs some kind of treatment. It won't just disappear on its own. And that's the main difference in terms of mental illness and mental health. So what types of treatment are there out there for people with mental illnesses? So there's all kinds of treatment. Medication is an option, but it's not the only option. It does help, and it is proven to help. There's a lot of information out there about the different types of medication, what they do and how they help. Physical therapy. So sometimes, sound therapy, that kind of thing, things that you actually physically take part in, or you get, happens to you, can help with mental illnesses. Talk therapies, psychotherapy. So psychotherapy, talk therapies, there's all different strands of talk therapy, all different types, finding the best fit for you. But basically, it's about sharing your problems, which we'll come on to. alternative medicines, and I put diet as an example of an alternative medicine, in that it can be, you can decide to treat your illness using your diet, using foods that help, staying away from sugary foods that give you lifts in mood and can give you mood swings. It can be the fact that actually your diet is giving you an illness, which in turn affects your mental state. So diet. I mean, I always, you know, I'm a believer in trying to get your body to react in a certain way and to use as much natural therapies as you can. But there are cases where medication is just needed. So don't, you know, I mean, don't shy away from, you know, going to your doctors and getting medication. Use it as a bridge to get you to better health. The thing about mental health and mental illness is that, you know, people don't look at it like, if you broke your leg or if you, you know, you cut a part of your body, people would see it. People would understand it. People would know what to do about it. And with mental health, people often struggle how to help, how to make it better, even seeing it, even just diagnosing it. And I think somebody's talking a little bit later about the stigma that's surrounded mental health, which is kind of acts as a barrier to good mental health. So that's mental illnesses. I'm giving you some examples of mental illness and some criteria under which like mental illness would be diagnosed. Okay, so that that's what the difference is between mental illness and mental health. Not everybody has a mental illness. However, mental health is everybody's issue. So everybody has mental health. Mental health refers to our emotional and psychological state. It describes our social well-being, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel, how we interact with others, how we feel the world is interacting with us. Our mental health determines how we cope with life's changes, challenges, and, you know, the different things that, you know, the situation we're in right now is a prime example. Good mental health enables us to take pleasure and satisfaction out of life. So good mental health, when your mental health, the benefits to having good mental health is that you can actually function to your optimum. When your mental health is struggling and you're feeling down and you know, there's different things going on, it's very hard to be the person that you want to be and get the results from the different things that you do that you would want. So good mental health is important, and it's everybody's issue. It's everybody's issue. And I think times like this highlight actually how you probably take your mental health for granted until you're put in a situation like this, and then realize actually I'm not feeling myself, I'm not making the same type of decisions, I'm finding it harder to get out of bed. All these kind of things is your mental health crying out for some care. You know, give your body care, you give your mental health some care. And it will enable you to be more productive and to be there, because most of us aren't necessarily motivated by our own health, but it will enable you to be there for the people that love you. So, you know, mental health is totally important. Mental health is not the same as mental illness. Everybody has to consider their mental illness. Poor mental health can lead to physical and mental illness. So if you don't look after your mental health, the result can be that you end up with a mental illness. And a mental illness is when you need help to get to the other side. We all need help sometimes, and it's really important that we reach out and we get that help. So examples of things that can put a strain on our mental well-being. So this is our mental health, not a mental illness. This is the things, the everyday things that sometimes we don't notice is affecting our mental health. And especially, you know, very strong people, we can be very strong and you know, you're not actually realizing that all this trauma that is adding up in your life is affecting your mental health. Early diagnosis is really indicative of, you know, better outcomes. So you can diagnose yourself earlier and say, something's not right, and seek the help out, you'll have a better outcome. Okay, so things that can put a strain on our mental health and well-being. I was gonna say kids, but no, they're a blessing. We love them. We love our kids, and they are a blessing. But relationship breakdowns, and I don't just mean you know, romantic relationships. It can be, you know, a breakdown. Some people, you know, falling out with your sisters, your brothers, you know, people that you love. Relationship breakdowns can have a real effect on your mental health, especially as they are the people that are close to you. Family problems. So we've all been in that position where somebody in our family has been ill, and it's a stressful situation, and you can feel the stress building up inside you. Difficult work situations. That's another one that often people don't always admit that they're in that place, or they could feel like they'll be letting someone down, or, you know, but your difficult work situation can affect your mental health. And remember, stitch in time saves 9. I don't know if you all know that saying. It's an old saying showing my age, but a stitch in time saves 9. That means if you nip it in the bud before it's grown to, you know, something you can't manage on your own, the outcomes will be better. Okay. Financial pressures. Well, I'm sure we've all had them, and you can have the most money in the world, you're still at some point going to have financial pressures. You know, the bigger your company is, the more money, the more people that you employ, the more, you know, a bad outcome it will be if something goes wrong. More people are affected. So financial pressures doesn't escape anyone. I know you might think, you know, you're the only one, but financial pressures escape no one. So these are all the things that if you are aware that these things, and you can admit to yourself that these things are having an effect on you, you can nip it in the bud, and you can deal with it and work on it before it comes to a point of a breaking point, burnout as they call it. Okay, so signs of poor mental health. I mean, sometimes we kind of not quite sure, or we don't want to admit, or we feel that other people are relying on us, that we cannot just admit that our mental health needs a little bit of work. So the things that might kind of trigger you to realizing that actually I need to do something about this: poor concentration, low mood. So we all have low moods now and then, but if your low mood is continuous, and you can't identify the specific reason why, like, you know, obviously if something's going on and you can say, well, I'm in low mood because I've just been bankrupt, or, you know, somebody in my family is really ill, you know, that's identifiable. Feeling overwhelmed, quite easily having moments of panic, those things, you know, be aware of that and kind of pay attention to your mental health. Feelings of disinterest, you know, sometimes you can feel I just don't care. You know, you'll get a lot of teenagers when they're kind of in that mode, just don't care, not bothered, you know, that feeling of apathy, that's a big red flag to the fact that your mental health needs taking care of. Irritability, short temper, and again, you know, sometimes you can identify the reasons why. You might have had, like, you know, back-to-back night shifts and had no sleep for 3 days, and then of course, you know, but if these feelings are prolonged, you know, you need to kind of start looking into it, and you need to take action. Don't just sit in your room thinking, oh, go. Take action. Lack of energy, that's another sign that you might be suffering in that area. You know, like I said, can't be able to get out of bed, can't understand why, that kind of thing. Feelings of feeling socially isolated. So sometimes, you know, that feeling, I'm sure we've all had it, that feeling where, you know, you could be in a room full of people, but you're still not connecting. You could be in a, you know, party, but you still feel like you're the only one. You know, I've had feelings of that before, but that's a trigger to me to reach out and try and make that connection. So look out for all those, not just in yourself, but other people around you. If you see some of this poor concentration, you say, oh, they just haven't been there safe, reach out. Because part of the healing process and part of people getting better is about the support systems and networks that they have around them. People whose mental health spiral into mental illness will often be people who don't have support systems. So please, like, if you see anyone, if you know anyone, or if you know anyone that suffers from, just reach out, tell them you're thinking of them. Just, you know, sometimes just being a listening ear is all that's needed. So, okay, how can we maintain our good mental health? So these are some of the things, you know, when you see these triggers, or you see these things, the poor concentration, and you know, you're not feeling yourself. I know a lot of us, I know I can speak as a Black woman, that we have a lot of pride, and often, you know, we can get through this, and we don't speak it out. The same is for men. I definitely want to address that in a second. Actually, let's go on to what you can do to maintain good mental health. Now, the old cliche, I'm afraid, is true. Regular exercise. People, it's amazing how something so simple is so, you know, indicative of good physical health and mental health. And as much as we probably, you know, it's sometimes the last thing we want to do is get on that treadmill, but you can find different ways to have your regular exercise. Mindfulness practices. So often anxiety and worry and stress is about in the future, worrying about future things, worrying about things you might not even be able to change or have no control over. And those are the things that bring us anxiety. So depression is about the past, anxiety is usually issues with regards to the future. So mindful practices are things that keep you in the moment. Mindful practices can be meditation. Mindful practices can be, you know, just being there. I mean, I like doing crafts. So sometimes, you know, when I'm in that place, I'll get something out and be there with my daughter and appreciate my daughter at the age that she still wants to do these things, because I know as she gets older, she's not going to want to spend any time with me. But yeah, so I really enjoy doing those things, and those things bring me back in the moment and make me appreciate her and appreciate what I do have, not focus on what I don't have. So my favorite is gratitude, because gratitude is so underrated. It is also scientifically proven through studies that gratitude is part of your healing. It's people who have gratitude have much better resilient mental health. So practicing gratitude, I mean, I am always trying to, I don't know about you guys, but I'm always trying to invoke good habits. I'm always trying to start another good habit, get up in the morning, do my exercise, you know, I'm trying to all of those. But if you can just embrace this one habit, because this one habit keeps me all the time, and that is gratitude. And gratitude, mindfulness. I was saying to someone earlier, it's, you don't want to appreciate something after you've lost it. You know, you don't want to lose half your leg and then go, oh wow, it was great having 2 legs, now I've only got 1.5. It's not so good, you know, it's not so great. Simple things. I work with adults with disabilities, and I've worked with people who are profoundly disabled. That means that every need has to be someone else do it for them. They can't just get up and go to the bathroom. They can't just do their hair differently. Everything they need done for them to keep them safe and alive has to be done by someone else. And I am just totally grateful that I can get up in the morning and I can put on my own socks. I am grateful that I can get up in the morning and I can open my blinds and let that sun come in if I want to. When I'm ready to close it, unclose it. No one's putting me to bed at 6 o'clock in the evening because they've got all these other things and all these other people to put to bed. So simple things every day. If you can get up and just think, the first thing I'm going to do is be thankful. That's the first thing I'm going to do, is be thankful, and have some, practice. Maybe you can get up in the morning and write 3 things what I'm thankful for. Do not wait until you lose it to be thankful for it. Be thankful for it while you have it. And that is something that really helps me all the time, even when things get really bad. I think there's always someone, I know it can be cliche, but there is always someone worse off than you. Stress management, that's the other thing we can do to maintain good mental health. Stress management. So feel yourself getting to that point, you feel things building up, give yourself that time off. Take that walk. Get connected to nature. Do something you find really relaxing. Some people, it's knitting, sewing. Find a hobby that you find relaxing. Find something that you can helps you de-stress. Hot bath, pampering. I love to pamper and I love to go, and that's something I love to do if I'm feeling a little bit tetchy, is have a hot bath, and then I do all my pampering and nice smells and get some candles out. That works for me. It might not work for you. Another thing I love to do is turn on my music and, go hell for leather in my bathroom or kitchen, wherever it is. Just do it. Just do it. Give yourself the time out. Throw away the guilt. Chuck it out. You ain't got time for that. Guilt is an unproductive emotion. It's not going to help you progress. It's not going to help you help others. And that's where you've got to get to in your head. This is not going to help me help others. If you let stress get the better of you, then you are not going to be of help to anyone else. So that's really important. Talk through your problems with someone you trust. Now, this can be hard, I know, definitely, for our proud women, our proud men, but it is highly important that you talk to someone. I think it's probably the reason that women live longer than men, right? Yes, I think so. I'm going to share some statistics with you about that, because the suicide rate in the UK, the suicide rate in Northern Ireland is the highest in the UK, and it is the highest amongst men between 25 and 29. In the suicide rate in England is the highest amongst men between 45 and 49. The highest suicide rate in Wales is amongst men 40 to 44. In Ireland, men between 55 and 64. Scotland, men between 35 and 44. I think that, I'm not saying there's a scientific correlation, but we can see the correlation between men and women and how we talk and how we, use our friends to talk to and sound out to. Men, I want to encourage you to talk to your other men, not just about football, not about the price of eggs. Ask them how they're feeling. Share with them that you have been in that position. Give them something to know that they are not the only ones that's in this place or been in this place. I really implore you, men, be honest to yourselves, be honest to your other male friends. If you can't talk to another male and your friends and women, talk. And as you can see, even in some of the treatments, talk therapy is the thing. So if we can avoid being to that place where we need clinical treatments, let's do it. So, men, put it out there, talk to the other boys, talk to the young guys, encourage them to talk. It is not a weakness, it is absolutely a strength. So I want you to encourage you to, tomorrow, reach out to a young man and say, I want you to know that talking about your feelings is a strength. Okay. So yeah, I hope that's kind of clarified and it's clear, and I've made it clear the difference between mental illness and mental health, and pointed out a few things that we can do to encourage good mental health amongst us and look after ourselves. I've got a friend, and she's got her strapline is self-care is not a luxury. Self-care is not a luxury. So look after your mental health, everybody, and remember that self-care is not a luxury, and treat yourself to something special tomorrow. And thank you, Victoria, for this platform. It's brilliant. I love what you're doing here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for that wonderful talk, Jen. Sure, once again, let's use our reactions. We have it in the description box. Thank you so much for putting comments in the chat. Jen, there's something that you said, being out in nature, and I was listening to Radio 4 yesterday, and it was talking about how just hearing the birds sing, and how they were trying to do a study to have it in the house, so you have the natural nature sounds, and they are checking to see if it has the same impact as being outside, which shows that being outside does have a lot of impact on our mental health and promoting mental health. So thank you for that. There was something that you said again in relation to what we can do, and that reminded me of one of the comments that I got from one of the people that I sent an invite to, and her name is Mary. And, she said that when everything gets on top of her, she just lets everything go, and she just puts on her favorite music and dances. So thank you very much once again for your wonderful talk this evening. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Without further ado, I would like to go ahead and invite our second speaker. As you can see, it has been a wonderful evening so far. We are learning so much. I would like to take this opportunity to invite Miss Sandra G.M. Jarvis, aka the Pep Talks Coach. The Pep Talks Coach. She is here.
Hello.
She's raring to go. Unfortunately, the slides are not working this evening, but
no problem. I just gave them as resources.
Perfect. So
they're just resources for everybody else.
Thank you so much. Let me just give a short introduction. So Sandra is the Pep Talks coach. She's a certified life coach and has been working within the coaching industry for over 10 years. She now coaches senior female CEOs, founders, leaders, entrepreneurs, consultants, and therapists how to systemize and streamline their lives. But you know what? I'm going to allow Sandra to tell us her story, but also tell us about the stigma and the myths. Please go ahead. Thank you once again.
You're welcome. It's funny, when we think about mental illness, the crazy labels, lazy and crazy, and things like that, and like the mad woman, the mad man. And for me, this does not help. And then when we look at the films, the movies, and how they depict people who have mental health issues, it doesn't help. And I feel that there's not enough being done to break down and educate people, because it needs to get done, because more and more people are not putting themselves forward to even say that, look, you know what, I don't feel very well mentally. That's a taboo, and it's getting better, but it's still a stigma. So just briefly, just to let everybody know, when I'm talking out of experience. So for me, I had a traumatic time, and one thing after another clumped together. Every single kind of life issue that was going on was happening for me. My parents moving to the Caribbean, I just had my son, baby father drama, and all these kind of different things that was going on for me, not being able to work, all of a sudden my life was like it was like a roller coaster, and I could not keep all the plates spinning as I had done before. Suddenly what was happening was I became very disconnected from my soul. So the disconnection going on in your mind, or your split mind, where you're not really clear about who you are and what's going on. And as a result of that, I ended up having mental breakdown after mental breakdown. But I'm here to tell you that the myths that I was told when it first happened was, it's incurable. You're never going to get better. You're not going to be able to work. Your life is not going to be the same anymore. And, things like, oh, and did you know it might be, what was the one? Inherited. And so you start to become very, very anxious about your own health. But these are myths. And I came to realize if the hat fits, wear it. If it doesn't, fling it off. And I'll explain what I mean later on. So the myths in itself, nobody wants to admit that they've having mental health issues. Oh, God forbid if you do, because when you do, the people's perceptions of you changes. And what also happens is once they actually know that you've had a mental breakdown, they kind of like think, oh, wow, if you so much as get upset, oh my gosh, oh gosh, she's going loopy. Oh, she's, you can't even express yourself and be assertive, because to be assertive and be mentally ill, oh no, you can't speak up for yourself. No, you're incompetent. You don't even know how to cope with life. So these myths are what hold people back from actually going out there and taking risks again to rebuild their life, because the negative projections that's going on with mental health as a whole, even certified professionals, mental health professionals, they're the ones that I feel they've been doing it for far too long. And so they clump everybody together. But when you look at the mental health illnesses, it's very broad: anxiety, depression and postnatal depression. It's very, very wide. And for that reason, clumping it together, lazy and crazy, oh, she's loopy, oh, she's lost her mind, oh, she's insane, and all these kind of labels don't help. So it's very, very important that we understand 1 in 5 people, each year is going to be experiencing mental health issues. But that doesn't mean that for me, mental illness is not long term. It's sometimes you're ill and sometimes you're not. Sometimes you have periods where you are very, very well. But these myths are not helping people. And I want to say to people who are experiencing mental health issues that it's going to get better if you understand that there are tools, and that mental tools that you can use to strengthen your mind and also improve your self-esteem and self-worth. Now, here's the thing about these myths. If you are from a family that are not well clued up about mental illness, they're going to start projecting their negative thoughts and feelings around mental health. Please understand this. Media is very, very powerful in persuading people how to think, how to feel, and how to act around mental people who have been labeled mentally ill. So we have to be really clued up. And I think that if you are experiencing mental health, I really feel that you need to investigate how you can stay well and what is going on with you. So there's the myths. And these myths, oh gosh, these myths, I really feel that more work needs to be done on that. So now we come to the stigma. Okay, so when I had my first mental breakdown, the stigma of actually having to tell people. In fact, I never told people, and that in itself really made me regress, because by not telling, by not admitting, by not speaking up and saying, look, you know what, I've had some mental issues. And the reason why the stigma was there is because I never traced back what was really actually going on in my life that was creating that disease in my mind. Had I done that, I would have been able to say, oh, okay, right, so baby father drama, okay, debts, okay, unemployment, okay, you know, a single mother, okay, you know, move to a new area, no support mechanisms in place. All these things, right, prevented me from actually dealing with my mental health challenges. And guess what? I never accepted the label. They did say that, you know, I was bipolar. I never accepted that label, because I knew inside me that, look, if this thing has happened and it is biochemical, something I'm doing, thinking, saying and doing on a daily basis is creating my biochemistry to go out of whack, because I wasn't born with depression. I wasn't born with bipolar. I wasn't born with those things. So something happened that flipped the switch. And what I mean to say by that is, if you can think of electricity, okay, when the sockets are overloaded, what does it do? It cancels it out. It cuts it out for the safety of others. And so if you can, I want to change your mind about what mental illness is and what's actually happening when you have a mental breakdown. What I'm trying to say here is that there is so much stuff going on in your mind that the mind has to shut down in order for you to reboot. And what happened in my experience was, I'd wake up the next day back to normal, like it was a dream. And so that's when I started to, the myths, the stigmas, when I started to say, okay, right, I've got all these negative projections on my life by other people. Mental health specialists are telling me that I will never, ever, ever be cured. Mental health specialists are telling me that, you know, what I have to look forward to is the 4 walls. And I'm thinking, hey, you don't know me and you don't know the God that I serve. And so for me, I started to say, okay, these stigmas have really held me back. However, I would like to start investigating. What did I start to do? I started to track my moods. I started to track what was going on in my life that was creating that disease in my mind. And one by one, I started to move away from all the people that were really negative, because I was absorbing that negativity and that was making me worse. I stopped watching the news because I didn't need any more negativity coming my way. So what I did, I started to go inner, because this problem is a spiritual problem and it starts inside your mind. So the stigma that you may be experiencing because of mental health issues is all what other people have been saying. Everybody gives their 2 pence worth, but you've got to understand that your mind is a very powerful tool that can be healed if you know what you're doing. Track your moods, track what's going on. If your biochemistry is out of whack, there's a number of different things that's going on that makes it so. Your environment, the food that you're eating, how you're eating. If you're eating loads of sugar, that's going to put your brain out of whack. Dehydration is another thing. Sleep deprivation is another thing. Oh, I'm only talking about myself. So here I was with people telling me, oh, you're so mad, you'll never get well. And I said, look, you know what? There must be something that I'm thinking, saying, and doing on a daily basis that is flipping the switch inside of my head. If I can take control of these things, I can take control back of my life. And so the reason why I'm sharing this with you is that, yes, there is the myths, yes, there's the stigmas, and yes, there's the stereotypes. Like, you know, for instance, that, you know, you're never going to get well. Oh, you know, you're dangerous. You're a risk to society, and all these, and you know, criminal activity. Let me explain this to you, that, you know, those people who have had mental illness challenges and have gone on to do criminal things or been violent, more often than not, alcohol and drugs have been involved, which has made it even worse. You really shouldn't, if you're taking tablets, you shouldn't really have to. What I can tell you is this, is that I did the inner work, meditation, as Genevieve, you know, Ho'oponopono techniques. And this is what I teach my clients, because once you understand that you take full responsibility, that hold on, hey, my body isn't working. What can I do to help my body to function? Right. If you can start isolating everything from your food, from, you know, the things that you're saying to yourself, the traumas that you've had, if you haven't dealt with them, that's going to impact you. So that when someone says, oh, she's loopy and she's mad and everything, it's going to affect you. But if the hat fits, wear it. If it doesn't, fling it off. And I'm going to say to you today that negative projections on your life from all the mental health professionals doesn't have to be 100% true. If you are willing to do the inner work, if you are willing to take charge and take control of your mind, because it starts in your mind, it starts with a thought. Your thought is linked to your emotions. Your emotions then makes your decisions, and then you take action, and then you get the result. So it starts with the thoughts that's going on in your head. Now, if you are negative and everything, you can be negative about something could happen. And then within about 20 seconds, you demolish your own self-esteem, your own self-identity, because you don't feel good about yourself. And then you project all the negatives, like you're being angry, bitter, you know, fearful. All these are lower level thinking. You have to elevate your thoughts. Love, peace, joy, and happiness, self-love, self-care. These are the things that you have to do on a daily basis. So hidden in your daily routine are the ingredients to success or failure, or miracles or tragedy. Something that you're doing daily is going to either elevate your health or deflate it. If you can take responsibility for what you cannot control the mental health people. You cannot control or what other self. And when you get face to face with yourself, I have a problem. What is the problem? My problem, as I told you, there was many things going on about debts. I thought I'd never get out of debt, and you know, other things that was going on. Until I took control of the relationships that I was in and removed myself from all abusive, emotionally abusive and mentally abusive situations. And the stigma and the stereotypes and the myths, for years I didn't work because I thought I was ill. I believed the mental health authorities. But even so, I had to actually flip back and say, okay, you've just seen me for a day and you're now going to diagnose the rest of my life. But you've never asked me, what was I doing 364 days beforehand? And I know for a fact that, you know, when I started to comb through, and I really want you to understand this, track what's going on in your life, which is really creating so much dis-ease and turbulence in your mind. And then once you can do that, you can then start eliminating certain things that are not good for you. Sugar, that's not good for you. Water, dehydration. If you're dehydrated, it will have an effect on your brain and of your moods and all the other things that goes with it, because you've got to feed your brain so that it can function. So juicing is one thing. Amazing, right? Okay, so when you do juicing, what happens then is that when you drink, I'm talking about vegetables now, when you drink green vegetables, it goes straight to the bloodstream, right? And within a few seconds of you actually digesting that, you start to feel better about yourself. Exercise is so important, bringing that oxygen into your body, as Genevieve said. But more importantly, these myths, these stereotypes, if you start to say, this does not apply to me, because you know what, I'm getting better. Every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. What you say when you talk to yourself makes a big difference. And if you can imagine the stigma of having several mental breakdowns, the stigma of really pulling yourself off from the bootstraps, where, you know, you had to look at, which is what I did, look at myself minutely. What am I thinking? What am I saying? What am I doing? What are my habits? I was huge. I was a size 22. And so there's other things going on with your mental illness, like, you know, the foods that you're eating. And once I understood that, I started not to eat so much processed food. Oh, bliss. It's nearly been a decade since I've had a mental breakdown. And this is what I'm saying, that it is more and more, and without drugs. but it's a slow process, a daily process of doing little by little by little, and believing that you're going to have better days, and really blocking out all the negativity. So what I did was overdose on personal empowerment information, motivational videos. And I will tell you this, and I kid you not, when I was going through what I was going through, Oprah Winfrey was the only person in the whole of that week when there was something positive on TV. I'll sit there like a dog. I'm not going to lie and lap it up. If she did other shows about clothes and stuff, I wasn't interested. But she brought in all these authors, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Stephen R. Covey, Ayanna Van Zandt. If you don't know who Ayanna Van Zandt is, you need to find out. Ayanna Van Zandt, Ayanna, but I say it as an English as she spells it. Amazing. And guess what? She had full mental breakdowns. And look at her now. She's on Fix Your Life, which is now coming to a close. One of Oprah's, on her Oprah's channel. She's on that now. Let's think about Benjamin Franklin, who's another one, English Prime Minister, had breakdowns. And look, they went on to do great things. And this is not what they're not saying to you. And as a Black person, what I can tell you, they're ticking on, she's female, tick. She's over a certain age, tick. She's a single parent, tick. She hasn't got any support network, tick. Right, we're going to put her in. But what I can tell you, and I'll leave you with this, and it changed my life. My son, I think it was the first breakdown that I had, or the second breakdown. And I asked the doctor, it was probably about 7 days that I stayed in hospital. Doctor, when can I go? Oh, Miss Jarvis, you're not ready to go right now. I don't know what happened. I don't know what possessed me. I looked the man in the eye. He was middle-aged Caucasian guy. I looked him in the eye. I said, listen, let me tell you something. What do you know about Caribbean families? Let me tell you, I've got responsibility and I have a son and he needs me and I need to be at home looking after him. Boy, oh boy, 2 twos, right? I was let out from hospital. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because I believed in myself, in my being, that I could take back control of my life. And that's another myth, and that's another stereotype, that when you have a mental illness, you can't look after yourself. Day by day, little by little, get better. Every day, look for improvements. Can I? That continuous and never ending improvement. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I know that what I've given you is enough for you to chew on, but really and truly, it is possible to be cured from mental illness, but it's what you're thinking, saying, and doing on a daily basis that will make the difference. That is the difference, the wisdom, difference that makes a difference. You're going to have self-discipline. Prayer, meditation, ho'oponopono, exercise, all these things. That's what I did. Oh my gosh, I was searching, and then juicing as well. I was searching for information other than drugs. I was determined to get well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. What an awesome testimonial. And, you know, we can see definitely your passion. We can see that, yes, you have been through it. You're talking from experience. You know, there's a lot of people that are saying, awesome, awesome. There was something in the chat there was something in the chat in relation to 2 things, but you know, one thing is that not everyone has insight on how to be able to track their health. Bear me 1 second while I just.
You know what? That's a good point. But guess what? My back was against the wall, right? It was do or die. Do I keep on taking these drugs and I get to a size 22? My head is so loopy that I can't even hold it up. I've got a son to look after. I had all these kind of things going on. I'm in the middle of South or West London. I have no support network in place. I have no people of my Caribbean heritage that could understand me. I had no choice. And this is what I'm saying. When we hand over our power to other people to safeguard our health, that in itself, it puts in our mind that we can't help ourselves. And tracking is very easy to do. All you do is, okay, so oh, my mood has dipped. Do I need to get, did I sleep last night? Did I have adequate enough sleep? What did I eat? And that's, really just combing through. But what I'd like to say is there is not enough information about this and how people can better support people who have experienced mental. And there's a difference. There is a difference in how a Caucasian person is treated to a Black person. So because of this was what was driving me, because no way, no day were they going to take my son away. Hell no.
Yeah.
So I had to get well. I think that was my drive.
That's
what drove me to say, I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again. It has been a very, very insightful conference this evening. I'm just filled with knowledge. And, it brings us nicely onto our next guest speaker. And, the reason why I say that is because, Sandra did mention about practitioners. And one of the key things that we need to be aware of, that we do have the opportunity of having, is having practitioners that are of our color, that can understand our mental health needs. We have the right to request this because it's the evidence and the research shows that the way a Caucasian or a BAME person experiences mental health is different. And that is because of the culture. And that is because of the culture. So this evening, without further ado, I would like to invite our third guest speaker to come and join us in the discussion. And then afterwards, we will be talking. Let's talk. And that is what we are here to do this evening. Bear me 1 second while I just find our dear Dr. Mo.
I'm here.
Perfect. I'm just going to add you. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Mo. Dr. Mo is a forensic psychologist. He's a psychiatrist. He's a consultant psychiatrist in intellectual disability, associate medical director of Kent and Medway Trust. We are so happy to have you with us this evening, talking about the support that is available. Please go ahead, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, my pleasure. And thanks so much, Genevieve, for your definitions and differentiation of concepts. Also, thank you so much, Sandra, especially for allowing us access to your personal experience. So that's what we call experts by experience. So my job has been made so easy. So trying to pull together conversations so far and helping people to appreciate how the system is organized, so we can get help as required. Unfortunately, we've not been able to display slides, and I'm happy for my slides to be shared after the event. But just to recap, one key thing around definitions, that mental health problems means one is unable to think, feel, and react in the way one needs to and want to live their life. So everything is taken away almost completely from you. So this may become more difficult and impossible to cope with, and can be more serious than physical health conditions. So there's something we call parity of esteem in funding within the NHS. And there's a recognition that areas such as cancer or physical health conditions in general, they get more funding than mental health. But what people don't know is that the burden of on the economy with mental health problems sometimes it's even more than some of the physical health conditions that we spend a lot of funds on. Just to narrow our conversation into my task, so I want to talk to people about how to seek help with mental health problems. So remember, as a psychiatrist, I'm not here to make diagnosis or to talk about diagnosis, which is what Genevieve has described, specific mental illness like schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, eating disorder, etc. But for people to make it really simple, to know that when your thoughts, your feelings, and the way you want to react to things has changed, it means that you need to start talking, you need to start seeking help. It doesn't really matter what the diagnosis is. Let that be the worry of others. I often say in my clinic that my focus is not to assess, to make a diagnosis, but to understand what it is that is causing you distress and preventing you from functioning normally, and whether we can make those changes applying psychosocial model before medication. So the first thing I would say is learn to talk to friends and family, or attempt to talk to friends and family. So there is evidence that people who have confidence are less likely to develop mental health problems or are more likely to recover because they find it easy to talk to people. We mentioned something around insight earlier. Some people are more insightful and a lot more likely to seek help. Others wait until things are to a point where they become completely insightless and then need authorities to make decisions on their behalf. So attempt to be open and honest at the very beginning about your conversation. If you understand that you don't have to have severe and enduring conditions before you are classified as having a mental health problem, you would know to seek help early. I know some of the stigma would be, if I talk, people might think I am mad or crazy, etc., and that might prevent people from seeking help. If you struggle to talk, know that you may require more than one conversation for you to be open about your problems. People often talk better when they trust whoever they're talking to, but no family members who are more likely to put themselves in your shoes. I mean, being empathic and offer solutions without judging you. And the nearer families are to you, the more likely you're going to talk to them. But what I would like people to take away from today is to begin to build a relationship that allows you to talk freely within. So the next level of help, if you're not able to talk to friends, family members, is your GP. So doctors are guided by confidentiality. If you don't want people to know your business, your GP is the best person to go to. They would know now or later, because when things get out of control, whatever professionals do, we still end up informing your GP of what we've done. I know the GP might be seen as a stranger and it may be difficult to talk to the GP, but when you do try, or once you can get through that barrier of seeing your GP as a stranger, please be honest, be open. Don't try to put names or words into how you feel. Just be expressive. Talk about your feelings in general, because there are doctors and professionals with some level of training around mental health. They're able to aggregate your feelings into symptoms and into syndromes and put a name to it and give appropriate support or make adequate referrals to experts. So the key word here is recognize your GP as an ally, as someone who can hold your information firmly and pull resources to offer you that support that is required. And you must describe your symptoms or your experiences in your own words. So when you have contact with your GP, the outcome might be that the GP will treat you, so it goes no further. Treatment could be offering you IAPT, that's primary care psychological services, talking therapy. It might be that GP is prescribing you exercise sessions and giving you prescriptions so you have cheap access to some exercise places or well-being places. Or GP might prescribe you first level treatment for that ailment. For example, GPs are able to prescribe antidepressants to a particular dose. They're able to change to a second one if the first one is not effective, and know your NICE guidelines or know how to access NICE guidelines. So you're able to track what treatment options are available to you, and then you can work alongside your GP to make your treatment adequate before it goes into secondary care. There are some areas where you have primary care mental health services. So these are practitioners with expertise in mental health, but they sit within GP practices. Some of them are prescribers, but mainly they're able to support GPs to make that diagnosis, offer that treatment, and offer that support in managing your recovery, as well as supporting you in accessing counseling services. Like I mentioned, majority of common mental health problems are managed within primary care facilities. So your GPs, the GPs, they see more of mental health problems than I do as a specialist. When GPs are not able to manage, that is when they refer to community mental health teams. So community mental health teams are set up in a very similar fashion across the country. Referral criteria are the same, and referrals are often required from GPs. But sometimes things can get so bad that families can then make referrals directly to secondary mental health team. Some secondary mental health teams have what we call a single point of access, where people call to gain advice or to seek direct support from clinicians. So when your referrals get to a secondary mental health service, that's your community mental health team, they often offer treatment in the form of psychological therapies or medications directly. More and more, we're seeing more people coming into secondary care. It shouldn't be, and many commissioners are looking at ways to improve local care. So many of our mental health problems are treated at GP level. Some of the community mental health teams, they provide psychological services on a one-to-one basis or as a group intervention. Some people can't manage group work, especially when their mental illness is driven so much by anxiety. Things have to be so bad to the point where you're risky to yourself or risky to others before we consider admissions. People often think that secondary care we like to admit, contain people within hospital environment. No, beds are scarce. It's expensive to have someone in hospital, but we know we need to keep people safe. Sometimes people might think they are safe, but we might not know them based on that singular encounter or that MDT assessment. Putting them into hospital allows us the opportunity to review and understand entirely before we can conclude whether the individual is safe or not. So the essence of admission mainly is when people are unsafe to be managed in the community. We have what we call the home treatment or crisis resolution and home treatment services. So there are people who are family members or there are other protective systems around them within their homes, and we then take in mental health services into those homes to treat. There are laws around mental health and mental capacity that may detect the direction or the route or the pathway for individuals. There's what we call the nearest relative. They have rights, to instigate for mental health services to offer a formal assessment when they feel a loved one has lost insight or has lost the willpower to seek help, or the mental illness itself has clouded their judgment completely. We need to remember that when we find loved ones or friends that require help, the key thing for us is emotional support, and also practical help with day-to-day living, with activities of daily living. We can't force people to seek help. When people are in crisis, unfortunately, the system is set up to pick them up in that manner. But like I mentioned earlier, nearest relatives, which is different from next of kin. So nearest relative is a legal term. People who are assigned the attribute of nearest relative, they're often able to make referrals and get systems to listen to them, to institute legal processes to get their loved ones to get help. So finally, there are many resources out there that we can Google at any time. We're all familiar with the NHS 111. The system is improving regularly and being linked into local healthcare systems so that you're speaking directly with your mental health service, regardless of where you're calling from. Samaritans, which is 116 123 number. They're also very good. Mind, which is a service, I don't have the number, but if you Google them, www.mind.org.uk, really good. Mental Health Foundation is a resource that can take you to any of the other facilities that may support you regardless of your mental health needs. If you need to talk, there's a talking therapies website as well. We have the community advice and the listening line. Call 0800 132 737. Campaign against living miserably, CALM, 0800 585858. A lot of resource materials within the Royal College of Psychiatry website as well. A lot of campaign opportunities, a lot of direction as to how you can contribute not only to the mental health world, but also to ethnic minority and the BAME community. My area of interest is in intellectual disability, working with people with learning disability, autism, Tourette's, etc. And I've had the opportunity of managing a lady from the Ghanaian community, and that's her son. And the experience made her to put together a group. And I had the opportunity of speaking to the group last month. And it's amazing how systems are set up without adjustments to meet needs of the BAME community. And my advice always would be for us to prompt systems or prompt services to consider some of our needs, some of our differences as it relates to our culture. And I'm sure that most services that are looking at being ethnic or cultural diverse would consider whatever people ask. Thank you for listening, and I hope the information is useful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mo. I will add myself back onto the spotlight. Bear me 1 second. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Mo. Thank you for your speak. It was very informative. People in the chat are already saying thank you. You know, one of the key things that you mentioned, which is good to see, is that especially hearing it from you as a professional, is that you're not keen to just put or place, should I say, anyone with a mental health issue into the mental health system, and that there are many steps that one needs to go through before we get to that stage. That is really reassuring, and I hope that really does encourage someone this evening to go and seek help. I would like to ask if there are any questions for all of our panelists, all of our speakers this evening. I'm just going to invite everyone back on.
Okay.
Bear me 1 second. I'm just... Okay, I've invited all our speakers on. If you do have any questions, please, thank you so much, Dede, for thanking all our speakers. Please either raise your hands using the reaction button, give a thumbs up like this, it's the button that looks like that, or please unmute yourself and they'll be more than happy to answer any questions. It is Let's Talk, so let's talk about it this evening. You can also type. Okay, so we've got quite a few questions. Okay, I can see your hands raised. Thank you very much. I am going to go to Joanne first of all. Joanne N-I. Please go ahead.
Hi there. I wanted to ask, do you guys know anything about dissociation? Because you've spoken about mood disorders and anxiety, but I feel like with dissociation, it's not really like touched on a lot.
Please unmute yourself if you would like to speak, any of our speakers.
So Ismail, what do you mean? What would you like to know about this dissociation? Definitions, what it is, treatments? I think the whole talk today has been just to expose people to the whole notion around mental health, not really on specific disorders, but dissociation is a form of mental illness, is a form of mental disorder, is a mental health problem, and it's around body experience, and it can be quite serious and can be chronic, as well, and often triggered by very severe life experiences. And from the psychodynamic perspective, people often see it as a way of escaping from some very serious pains, and treatment can be very challenging as well, depending on especially the cause of the trauma, as well as the insight of the individual, and the ability to persevere with psychotherapy.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Dr. Mo. I'm just trying to find Joan, I just wanted to say it is something that it is a series. This is our first series. We will be having multiple series throughout the year. I'll put a list of the dates of when we're going to be having more discussions. But thank you so much for adding that in. That is one that we can discuss in one of our follow-up programs that we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much for your question. Before I answer the next person that raised their hands, I just wanted to acknowledge Bade Kuti, who is the president of the Ishakiri Congress UK, the umbrella body for all the Ishakiris in the UK and Europe, of which Dr. Mo is an active member. So I see we have you here and you have a question. So please go ahead and unmute yourself and we'll be happy to answer your questions this evening. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Victoria. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Please go.
Oh, thank you. It's very nice to be here. I've been invited here by Chief Mo and my organization, and it's been very informative, like I said. And thank you very much to Genevieve and Sandra for your personal experience, and Genevieve for your speech earlier. It was all very good. I think we need more of this kind of conversations to help us within our community, to be honest. And that actually relates to the question I was looking to just to get a bit more insight about, since we have the privilege of having Chief Mo here and Sandra, of course, as well. I'm thinking about how do you call it? What do you call it?
Stigmatization.
Stigmatization, yeah.
Yes.
In our community, as far as mental health or mental disorder is concerned. And I was just curious, in our culture, I know someone said earlier, I think it was it Genevieve that said that you have to speak to people, you have to be, and Chief Bo also said you have to be outgoing and be confident and all that. I see that very much in our community in terms of it's just the way we're meant to be. You know, we're very outgoing people. I'm talking about the BAME community now, so forgive me. I know there are lots of people here. But in the other aspect of it, we are more reluctant to seek help within our community. So there's a disconnect there in the confidence of the man or the woman, the black man or the woman, or Asian man or the woman out there, but we don't seek help. So there's something missing there. I don't quite get the link why it is like that. And also going to the earlier conversation about men being more likely to commit suicide. I think this is probably general, is not particular to the BAME community. But then again, what is it about men that makes us more likely to commit suicide? I just needed us to so we recognize this kind of things when it starts to happen to people around us. And I've experienced recently a very good friend of mine. This is about 2 years ago, who woke up one morning. I've absolutely nothing wrong with him. Is other that he was taking some medications for some body or skin condition that he had. It seemed very fine, outgoing black chap from Africa, and then woke up on the next day after Valentine's Day on the 15th of February. His wife sleeping in bed. He just drove straight to the train station, parked his nice Mercedes outside his train station, and jumped in front of the train. You understand? So he's just trying to recognize this thing, and nobody saw this coming. It's not as if he had a previous situation that anybody could see. We chat with him all the time. So it's just for us to recognize this kind of stuff. So what do we look for in our men, to be able to say, maybe you need to talk to somebody now when you start to see these signs. So once again, I thank you all. It's been very useful, and I look to hear from whoever can take the questions, please. Thank you very much.
I think we're going to have a number of our guest speakers speaking. So if we go to Sandra, Genevieve, and then Dr. Mo. So Sandra, please go ahead.
Right, there's a lot in what he said. But in terms of the stigmatization, what's actually going on for Black people is you're asking us to go into an institution that doesn't really respect us. I'll give an example. It takes the doctor 10 minutes to sign your name in, and there you are, you're in the psychiatric ward. I will tell you this, that it was more traumatic the whole trauma thing began in the hospital. My mistrust of mental health began in the hospital. So if there are people who are not taking their tablets, it's possibly because they don't feel heard, possibly because they don't understand what they need to do to stay well. The stigmatization of it is is people's perceptions about Black people already is already negative. So you're Black, you've got, you're mentally ill, you're unemployed, possibly. I'm talking about myself here, and you're a single parent. So you've got all those kind of things going on that makes you not want to even venture into this arena that doesn't respect the fact that you have beliefs, spiritual beliefs, that they don't respect. So if you go in there and you start talking about God, oh, she's definitely, really loopy and she's so mad, we're going to keep her in here for a month. And when it comes to the men are worse, because sometimes they are entering into hospital due to substance abuse. But because of the fact that they smoke marijuana and everything, they're penalized more. So there's all these different things going on as to why men and women and Black men and women don't want to enter, because it's the fear of the unknown, of going into an environment that is just going to pump you up with drugs, rather than hear what is really going on for you. I would say that maybe 2 times out of the times that I was entering in, I was more distressed than anything. And I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm out on the street and I'm in an argument with someone, that's something I would not do. Why? Because if, for instance, it gets escalated, they want to know my name, my date of birth, and my doctor. And because I'm having this argument, okay, or this disagreement with someone, oh, she's mad, she's loopy. Your name, your doctor, and your date of birth. And when they do a few taps, oh yes, listen, these are the things, the mistreatment of Black people when they're going in, the prejudice, the racism, is one of the reasons why people are not coming forward. The other thing is people are disconnected from themselves. How could they possibly know that not all is well with them? And I'm going to be honest with you that sometimes I could say to you, I went to bed at say 12 o'clock. I typed an email to somebody, a long email to somebody about 11 o'clock. I wake up the next morning psychotic. What's going on? And the only reason why I can tell you that is because when I came back in from hospital, I looked and I thought, hold on a minute, that whole email suggests nothing going on in my mind. But between 12 o'clock and 9 o'clock the next morning, something had flipped a switch in my head. But like I said, sleep deprivation over, hidden in your daily routine, what you're doing on a daily basis will determine what's actually happening physiologically within you, biologically within you.
Thank you.
With this guy, all I can say is something must have been going on in his life that he didn't feel that he can cope. And when it comes to men, there's a lot more pressure on how they should be, and how they should be projecting themselves as a male, as successful, and these are all labels and stuff. If we understand that the most important thing is understanding that we are of value, our life is of value, before, oh, but I don't have the car, I don't have the, if we start to say what we do and how we contribute and how we make a difference in the lives of other people, we probably wouldn't get so strung out and upset and experience mental illness. It really is because we are trying to be all things to everything and everybody, rather than being truthful to ourselves and being at a pace that we can go at.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for that. There's two things that you said, and this is something, I work in the education sector, and I find that a lot of the times, we were never taught to name or identify what we are feeling. This week is, Children's Mental Health Week from the 1st to the 7th of February. And one of the things that I am really conscious and focusing on is getting the children to be able to identify, I am happy, I am sad, I am angry, I am mad, I am frustrated. These are things, once we are able to give it a name, then we can also find a solution. Please go ahead, Jen, in your response before.
Yes, I wanted to say that, Sandra's hit upon many points in there. There's lots of different reasons, and that's the thing. dealing with mental health in terms of men. It's a multifaceted answer because, you know, in terms of Black men, there's going to be the stigma and the treatment that they might receive. And I think it's also wrapped up in our belief systems about what it is to be a man and what it is that is expected of us. And for men, you know, we have talk therapy, women talk, women live longer. There's been lots of work done around it. Not all of it, you know, completely proves that this is why, but it's definitely it shows as part of the reason. Men are very reluctant to talk to each other. I always say it's like women, you know, there's like, what's up, girl? And it's like, oh, I hit, my mom did. You know, you go into a pub, men get together and it's like, how you doing? It's like, yeah, did you see the cricket? It's like, yeah, it's like the man's life is falling apart, his wife has left him, this is happening, and all he can bring himself to talk about is certain stuff. I think, you know, we need to start our young men, and you need to, as the older men, need to show by example, by expressing yourself. Today I am feeling like this. It doesn't make me anything, it makes me human. And today I'm expressing this, I'm moving on. I put a post up, this is just the other day on my thing about feeling emotional. And, you know, you have those days where you feel emotional for just no reason. You don't understand why, you're just crying or you just feel really upset, or, you know, the X factor makes you boo-hoo, you know, you're like, what's going on? And, you know, it's okay to feel that way. And I think women, we give ourselves permission. And one of the people that answered, she was like, well, it's called being a woman, love, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, kind of. And the difference is being a woman. It's not that we feel necessarily more, because not all women do, but we are allowed to express it. And we're encouraged more to express it. Although, you know, if you know, it's the same for women that are high up in business. If you're high up in business, you're not encouraged. So you end up the same, you know, A-type personalities, you end up in the same position with high incidence of high blood pressure, heart attack, that kind of thing. High, you know, business women that are high up suffer the same things because it's seen as weak to talk about your issues. And men interpret it as talking about the issues as a weakness. And in fact, it's in a strength, you know. And sometimes if you really, you know, it's going to take a long time for that to stop being a habit. So what men need to do is reach out. You know, like you're saying, you know, it happened to your friends, and I'm really sad for you that happened, because often the people that are left behind are left feeling, what could I have done? What could I have, you know, if I'd done something different, maybe he would have been here today. There probably would have been nothing you can do, but maybe ask the question. Don't wait for your friends to say, well, actually, it's all falling apart. Sit down, have the conversations. What's really going on? How's you and your wife really getting on? Like, do you know, what's the little things you argue about? What can you do to alleviate that? Talk it out. You know, when you're in your own head, just going around with your own solutions, the thing that caused the problem cannot be the same thing that gives you the solution. So your problem is created within you and in your head. You are not going to be able to solve that problem. You need to go out with it. So I would just say that, you know, talk to the men around you in your life. Reach out to them. How are you really feeling? You know, and stop associating certain behaviors with being manly. It's not about being manly. I'm a very strong woman, but I'm happy to cry. And in fact, when you cry, you release hormones that help you cope with stress. You know, there's physiological things and biological things going on at the same time as well, when you actually release yourself from your problems and your issues. So talk and encourage the men, and talk to the young men in your life, you know, about talking to other guys and just being open and honest.
Thank you, Jen. You know, there's one thing that you said that we really need to talk. And, you know, just as women, as they say, have their salon or hairdressers that they go to, men have their barbershops. That is a great opportunity. You're amongst men. I know men think that all we do is gossip when we get there. But again, at your barbershops, that is a great opportunity. Any community groups that you're in, that's a great opportunity to talk about issues and gain other people's and outside perspective. Mr. Mo, please go ahead. Thank you, Jen.
Well, thank you. Just to bring some calm to some thinking that may have been generated from some of the conversations, for people to know that although the system needs to improve, but there are many good things happening within the system. Hospital environment can be very traumatic. I appreciate that, but there are people who need hospital environment, and those who need the hospital environment often find it really useful. Also, there are others who do not even need hospital. They strive so much, so hard to get admitted, and we try to keep them away from hospital. I'm sure people have heard about individuals with EUPD, emotionally unstable personality disorder. I know, Sandra, at some point you got the strength and you got the willpower to begin to effect changes and take charge of your care, which is very good. But sometimes when people are at rock bottom, it can be very difficult and they need help and they need people to help them get to that place where they're able to take charge of their life. Just to challenge us to think the other way, so we don't think hospital admission or environment is a crazy place. Like I said earlier, those who need it, they need to be there, and it's usually around risk when we're concerned or when we're unsure, because we don't want suicide happening. Talking about suicide, it's not every suicide that is driven by mental illness. I need people to know. But the prevalence of suicide amongst individuals with mental health problems is higher. We must remember that there are risk factors, like Dede was checking. How do we know? There are risk factors to suicide. There's what we call negative automatic thoughts. So where you feel something hasn't gone well for you, and then you feel that the whole world is unkind to you, and then you feel like the world is a useless place to be in, and that you need to disappear. So hopelessness is a key risk for suicide, as well as guilt and shame. Using alcohol and other substances that cause impulsivity and aggression would increase risk for suicide. Someone who's attempted to take their lives or who've had thoughts in the past are more likely to have those thoughts again and then perhaps end their lives and completed suicide. Family history is also very strong. What that tells me is that if a family member or if a particular group of people sees suicide as a way out of a very difficult challenge or emotional turmoil, then that might be an easy route for them. But we need to be wary about the impact of stigma on our culture. Stuff like you've got to be strong is not usually acceptable because it does bring in the stigma. If I have my leg fractured, people will say, sorry, how are you managing? Are you coping? Let me help you. But if I present with a mental health problem, people will tell me, pull yourself together. You've got to be strong. Men have feelings and men can cry. So let's be conversant with that and let's encourage that. Let's talk more, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mo. You are absolutely correct. I personally, I've worked in mental health. I've worked in the medium secure unit. I've worked in DBT. One moment, Jackie. Thank you. I've worked in DBT wards as well, and I have seen the process from coming in to the system, but also being able to come out. So it is not a life sentence. It is not a prison sentence. They are there to help. And that's what I want you to understand. Yes, Dr. Mo is right. Some people are able to be able to get back to mental health and mental health without entering the system. But some people need it. Some people need it. And if you need it, and if you get to that stage of needing it, please make sure that you do go for that help when it arises and when it comes. Just like Dr. Mo says, it is scarce. To find places and to find suitable places that will meet your need is very scarce here in the UK. So thank you very much, Dr. Mo. I'm only going to take 2 more questions, and then we are going to close for this evening. We have run over time. So I would like to go ahead and ask Ophelia, if you can please ask your questions. And if we can just spend a very brief time in answering them. Thank you so much, our speakers.
Okay, sorry, good evening.
Good evening.
I mentioned in the group chat about the effects of growing up in Africa or with African parents. And then recently I also learned about toxic shame recently, and got a better understanding that we end up raising our children in the way we were raised, and to believe things, especially as we were not questioning anything when we were growing up. So majority of us would have grown up with some kind of religious belief. And I just wanted to ask, how do we encourage others to practice this religion while still being themselves?
If I can just respond very briefly in terms of the role of religion in managing mental health problem. I think that's probably what you're asking. So what I always say to people is that the Bible is the greatest psychological textbook you can ever think of. There's nothing that we speak about or talk about in terms of psychology that is not really in the Bible. I don't preach when I practice as a psychiatrist, but where people expose themselves or lend themselves to me to talk about the Bible, I do. If you know the word that says, it's what you speak into yourself that becomes a being. It's exactly psychology. So I was saying to someone the other day that when you spend so much time talking negatively about others, condemning others, it takes a lot more energy to speak positively about that same person. And when you speak positively about that same person, you will feel the lightness in your heart and the way it affects you and the world, in general. Recently, when we're talking about the impact of COVID-19 on us as healthcare professionals, the executive director of nursing was saying, we're all missing out how religion can help us to recover and how that can strengthen and build our resilience. So I believe that there is a big role, for that, but the system is not set up in a manner to use that as a primary tool to support individuals. But I also know that when you look at the care and support of individuals, there's a requirement for you to explore their religion and how that can help them recover from mental health problems. I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but the bottom line is there's a role for religion. And if we begin to teach our kids very early on how to develop resistance based on that Christian awareness or Christian background, hopefully they would use it when there are challenging times in the future.
Yes, if I just could quickly give you an answer there. One of the things the main thing about, we all use different things as tools to make people conform, and unfortunately people do use that, but gratitude and forgiveness are the top, are the main thing. If you can't not just preach gratitude and forgiveness, but actually practice gratitude and forgiveness, then you're not aligned with what the Bible is actually saying. And actually in the Bible, people, you know, oh, love others as you love yourself, but it is love others as you love yourself, not less than you love yourself, not more than you love yourself, as you love yourself. So self-love is something that you need to teach your children first and foremost. Self-love is going to give you that esteem. You're not going to, you know, where you don't end up you know, going out with the wrong guy or doing something like that, in the wrong job, or not believing in yourself. Self-love is so important, and it's one of the main commandments is to love others as you love yourself. So love yourself, teach your child to love themselves.
Thank you. Sandra, is there anything you wanted to add quickly before we go to the next question?
Yes, that is how I managed to get really strong within my mind as to who I was. There was one scripture, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God and he would direct your path. But the reason why I say this one, Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 6, was there was something about it that was so poignant to me. And the question was for Marie Osmond on the Oprah Winfrey Show, what is it that keeps you going for all the tragedies that you've gone through? And then when I really sat down and I thought, well, okay, there are going to be things that are going to happen that I'm not going to understand, but I'm going to trust that no matter what happens, God and myself, we will together handle it. And that's how I made out in my mind that, look, you know what, if I speak it into existence, it's going to happen. So as a woman thinketh, as a man thinketh, so is he. But the best way of actually teaching your children is to be a good example. So they will do as you, they won't do as you say, they'll do as you do. So the best way of starting is probably Proverbs, because it's filled with so much wisdom about different elements of life, money, relationships, you know, the power in the tongue to kill or destroy. You know, it's all there in Proverbs. In Psalms, you know how to pray. So, you know, it doesn't have to be sort of like Bible bashing, but what you can do is share a scripture at a time and discuss it.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The last person that I would like to go to is Sunny Cuckoo. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. You said you had a question. Are you still with us? If you are, you can please type your question in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Are you still with us?
Thank you very much, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Thank you to the organizers of all of these, and for the speakers taking time out of their very, very, very busy schedule to give us information about mental health in these trying times. But I want to especially thank Sandra for sharing her personal experience with us, especially that as minorities, we are known to keep to ourselves and never sharing personal challenges. It is easier for the other group, if you may permit me to use that, to see us in the street and say, do you know I'm mentally ill? Do you know, can I get help? But for the Black person, it is very difficult. We die in silence. So for this, I want to say thank you very much, Sandra, for being open with us and for helping us to probably from this evening begin to change our ways gradually. Somebody talked about, one of the speakers talked about diet.
Oh, yeah.
And I also remember that Dr. Moore mentioned challenging, if I'm right, the system to incorporate our culture and put it succinctly, a West African way of responding. I have carefully looked at the NHS recommendation on diets when you're suffering different illnesses and whatever. They are careful to list, and even when you see the dietitian, they are careful to list a list of food that you should avoid and list of food that would help you. But if you look at this crowd this evening, we are mostly Africans, so to speak, and the Caribbean. And the NHS might slightly put in some Caribbean food, but the African pounded yam, rice, banga, stash, and all that, I've never mistakenly seen it in the NHS or whatever, you know. And then I also want to ask, how do we challenge the system? Yes, I can say because you are there, well, a few of you are there, you know what our challenges are, you could help us push this. We as people who are patients or who are potential patients, how do we challenge the system to incorporate our ways of behaving, of responding to or displaying mental challenges and illness? Thank you very much.
If I respond, sorry, go on, Sandra.
In terms of diet, what I've realised, and a really good question, but I think you have to look at how much of the food that you're eating and how that is helping you. So there's alkaline and there's acidic foods. It's two separate groups. If you eat too much potatoes, that's acidic. This will cause dis-ease in your blood. So what I mean to say by that, there's certain foods that causes dis-ease in your blood. So then it causes a lot of dis-ease in your body. So when we're looking at things like pounded yam and everything, yes, but in small quantities. I've got a PDF of foods, and I will pass that on to Victoria, that breaks down how long it takes to break down in the body. So like nuts takes about an hour and a half. Pork is like 2 weeks, if I remember correctly. So it's the foods that we're eating that will keep us healthy. But if we don't know which foods it is, because we've been handed down these foods, but we need to do more research. Alkalizing plant-based foods are what you need to help boost your immune system. And in the COVID-19 times that we're in right now, perhaps the heavy foods are not going to be as good as if we were eating plant-based foods, which could juice it up to go straight into the bloodstream. I hope that answers your question on the diet side of things.
And can I quickly, because I know you're conscious of time, so I just want to quickly say that it's great that we have advice in different places. It's great that they even print any of the stuff, but you really have to, your self-care and your health is your responsibility. It's your problem. The thing it is great is that they associate they're making you aware that there is a link between your health, mental, physical health, and your diet. You now know that. You know, as wherever you're from, if you're from Sweden, country, you know what grows or what you cook or how to cook, you know. So it's up to you to do the research and say, well, actually, you know, and everybody reacts different. Some people are allergic to bread. Some people are allergic to potato. I mean, I love potatoes, but I'd hate to be allergic to potatoes. Some people are allergic to potatoes. So it's about also listening to your body, you know, eating that thing, listening to when, oh, actually, I feel a bit stiff. I don't, like, if I drink wine, I can feel it in my joints. You know, you have to take responsibility, the system, the people, and this is why, you know, the illness and the mental health is so important. It's so important that you take care of your mental health so you don't end up mentally ill. You know, nip it in the bud. You know, look at your diet, think about what you're eating. Think about, you know, we all know that sugar's not good, you know, too much sugar. We all know that moderation is the key to everything. If you have too much of anything, it's going to be bad for you. So don't rely on them to list every single food that is going to be great for us and be, you know, great personally for us. Do your own research and, you know, do the things that you can do for yourself.
What else did he say? He said about diet. What else did he say again?
Oh, sorry, I think Chief would like to
Yes,
Dr. Mo would like to speak.
Yes, I just wanted to mention the aspect Sonny mentioned about contributing to the local care or the NHS organization, so they adjust to your needs and how you can prompt some of these things. So there are various systems in place that would allow you to engage in your care. I know the NHS speaks about person-centered care always. You can always challenge them, what do you mean by this? The training of person-centered care is that you have the support to plan your care when you're well, when you're unwell, and how to manage crises. When you're in hospital, you have the opportunity to also contribute to your care plan, so that from what you eat, when you eat, even though they have a structured time for these things, you can contribute and make those adjustments. I would suggest that some of us from the BAME community, we should more and more look out for opportunities to be part of the service user groups or carers group or any local mental health, not a voluntary organization that is able to influence the NHS in changing to meet the needs of other diverse groups. That way you can bring some of your experiences and some of the things you would like to see change when you're well and not waiting for when there's a crisis. What you eat and how it relates to mental health is purely on the basis that your physical health can have direct correlation with your mental health and vice versa. So doing exercises, keeping your BMI at a very specific level or healthy level, making sure your cholesterol is normal. But the key thing is making sure that you are constantly stimulated naturally, so that there is schedule to your everyday life. And that way you're able to maintain a good mental well-being.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mo. Yes, thank you. I would like to call on the Deputy Leader for BAME, for Black Labour Movement, Milton Keynes. If you can please, I'm going to add you now. Mr. Chief Matthew Uria, if you can please, our Deputy Leader, this is my Deputy Leader, everyone that has been working with me, supporting me. If you don't mind looking at your WhatsApp, sir, as well. There are just some things on there for you, but thank you very much. It's been a great evening. It has been fantastic. Thank you for those that are still on the line. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Wow. It's been a great evening. I'm so excited and feel like going on and on. I wonder how Councillor Victoria Vamse assembled these experts. It is wonderful. Well, I think we've had it all. All I have to say is to say, first of all, I thank our national leader, Councillor Sonny Lambert, for finding time to be here with us. In fact, 1 or 2 weeks ago, I was wondering if we'd be able to be around because he was away. But fortunately for us, he came back and is here with us. You all heard him earlier on. You're welcome, sir. And thank you so much for being with us all through. We have our dear evangelist, our mother, our sister from the Nigerian community, Esbury. Thank you very much for your wonderful contribution and the works of humanity that you are doing with your team. We are very grateful. And thank you for all the insights we had from you earlier on. Furthermore, I want to give thanks to our wonderful speakers First on the list, Genevieve Shaw. Wow, that was brilliant. And we have Sandra Jervis. You're welcome, madam. Thank you very much for your beautiful contribution and all the experience that you exhibited, personal experience, is very, very much appreciated. And I'm sure our viewers will be very happy and they would have taken one or two things away. If I particularly, because I'm in that field, in fact, I've gained a lot. Well, the last but not the least among the speakers this evening, I mean the special speakers, there were other speakers. My brother, Dr. Mo Oyinbo, you're welcome, sir. Thank you very much. You've really done a great deal with the subjects. So when we say doctor, yes, you are really the doctor, and then you know your onions. In fact, I am particularly grateful myself that I've learned a lot this evening. So I want to plead that if our leader, my leader here in Mythikins, call on you again, because we have a lineup of dates for other events. It could be this topic or maybe another topic. Please don't hesitate to join us. We'll be very much, we very much appreciate your coming to assist us again, because all our viewers, you can see everybody was very attentive and they all relaxed. They feel we can go another hour. So we thank you very much. And all our other contributors and those who were able to ask questions, your questions were a very great deal to us, because without questions, we'd never know how we feel, because those are the feedbacks we have. And it will help us in no small measure to improve in our other programs. Thank you very much. Above all, everybody, I wish you a happy evening and good night. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
My
you.
dear leader, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll have more of you, and then you'll be able to help us to organize more of this and more regularly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, my deputy. Thank you so much. I just want to thank this opportunity again. Just a few more people. Just want to thank Mr. Julius, who's the Assistant Secretary for Nantes, Mr. Lanray, who also joined us, who's the President for Nantes, though he's left. I also like to thank Mr. Ambrose, the Secretary for the Nigerian Council of Elders. I also would like to thank we have a deaf ex-GB Olympic athlete amongst us. Brian, I would like to thank you. Kevin, I would like to thank you. I would also like to thank Jackie and Steve for doing the sign language BSL this evening. So let's clap for them. They have done a fantastic job. Thank you for your support this evening. I just wanted to say, yes, there are more dates. The next one will be the 8th of March, where we will have series 1.1. And I will be able to get the questions that have not been answered or are answered this evening that are in the chat. I will collate them, and we will then add them to the next series. So thank you once again for joining us this evening, and have a blessed night. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Right. Well done.
Bye. Good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Kenny.
Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah,
thank you, Mia.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Jide. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Jackie. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Mercy. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. I'm just going through the names. Thank you all, Ambrose.
Yeah.
Kadiri, thank you very much. I couldn't pronounce your first name, so sorry. Thank you, Jide. Thank you, Kemi. Thank you, Christamont. Thank you, Patricia, for joining us. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lillian Martins. Thank you for joining us. It has been a great evening. Thank you, Elizabeth,
Yes.
iPad. Sam,
Thank you.
thank you
Thank you,
for
everyone.
joining us. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening, all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth Aga. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to Michelle. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm just trying to
Okay.
see. We still have quite a few participants on the line. Thank you all. Oh, thank you, Kemi, for clapping. I thought you had a question and I didn't see it in time. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy your evening, everyone. I am about to log us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay. Bye-bye. Good night.